In a retrospective look at the Obi Wan Kenobi series, some would say Papa North and the other critics were a little harsh on Reva. There's a big difference between woke virtue signaling and great storytelling. And with that said, we here at Nerd North think we figured out the Reva story arc the Star Wars fandom deserves. So without further ado, Papa North presents Reva, the Star Wars story arc you deserve. Nerd North! We start our story off just before the events of A New Hope. Now we still keep the conflict that Reva is feeling inside based on her being snatched away as a youngling by the Empire before she had any time to make decisions about her own future. Now Reva will still feel anger and hatred toward the Jedi from her perspective, seeing that they were the ones that tried to take down the Galactic Senate. But over the years has grown to seeing some of the evil that the Empire themselves has conducted on other planetary systems, leaving her very unsettled and unsure inside. She knows she's a strong Force user, but holds back her powers just a bit to keep herself at an arm's length from Vader, knowing that if she ever had to see Vader in person, he could feel the conflict inside her. And though she might not be able to ever hide these feelings from Vader, she knows if she holds back just enough that she can still hide them from the Grand Inquisitor. But Papa North digresses, and we are now at the beginning of A New Hope, where an escape pod has jettisoned with no life signs inside it from an Imperial Star Destroyer. Knowing that this is very curious indeed, the Empire decides to send an away party down to Tatooine to investigate this further, but they need to have somebody lead up their team, and that's when they pick Reva. And while the Imperial troopers take a look around Tatooine and begin their dragnet to find this escape pod and who might have let it off, Reva decides to go about town and start questioning people herself. And as reports begin to emerge that it was a couple of droids that left in the escape pod, Reva begins to hear from the locals that there is a Ben Kenobi on Tatooine, leaving her to wonder if this is the infamous Obi Wan Kenobi that was a surviving Jedi from Order 66 that she's still tasked with hunting down. She becomes obsessed, and it doesn't matter whether the townsfolk tell her that they've seen him at the cantina or at Mos Eisley. It always seems that Reva is just one step behind Obi-Wan. She knows this feeling to be true in her heart because of the Force and continues to try to track down Obi-Wan, getting all sorts of clues by the town people of Tatooine. And while Imperial forces are busy trying to track down these two droids that escaped from the Star Destroyer, Reva continues her search for Obi Wan Kenobi, and in this time she begins to hear stories about a young Skywalker boy that is accompanying him all over the place. Could it be that this Skywalker is related to Anakin Skywalker somehow? Let's continue our story to find out. Through the huts and other bounty hunters, Reva manages to discover the whereabouts of Obi Wan Kenobi and the Skywalker boy. But by the time she discovers where their whereabouts are, it's too late. Obi-Wan, Luke, Han Solo, and crew have already taken off from Tatooine. Embarrassed and ashamed on her way back to an Imperial installation, Reva decides not to mention anything all about the search for Obi-Wan Kenobi, in the hope she would not be seen as a failure by the Empire. But news soon begins to circulate throughout the galaxy that Obi-Wan Kenobi and crew have infiltrated the Death Star, but is soon relieved to find out that Darth Vader himself has taken out this threat. Her secret is safe, and no one in the Empire will be any the wiser that she was ever after Obi-Wan Kenobi. But shortly thereafter, news comes: the Death Star has been destroyed. And when news arrives that it was the young Skywalker boy that had blown up the Death Star, any conflicted feelings that Reva once had about the good and evil about the Galactic Empire now turns to hatred and rage, as she sets her eyes on young Skywalker to destroy this Jedi prodigy before he can do any more damage to the Empire. We now head to the events of The Empire Strikes Back, and throughout the events of this story, we have Reva trying to track down Luke Skywalker and find out where he is headed to after he has departed from the planet of Hoth. Different bounty hunters and other underground scum and villainy of the Star Wars universe, Reva heads from planet to planet to planet to try to track down this elusive Skywalker. Unbeknownst to her, he's currently training on Dagobah with Master Yoda. And when Luke decides to depart Dagobah to go and try to save his friends, word of the elusive Skywalker emerges from different bounty hunters that he is on his way to Cloud City, and that's when Reva decides to take up her ship and track him there. But just like on Tatooine, Reva always seems to be one step behind. And with the trap already set in place for Luke by Darth Vader, this task will get no easier for Reva. As she lands on Cloud City, corridor after corridor, hallway after hallway, tunnel after tunnel, Reva always seems to come to a roadblock. And with Luke Skywalker closer to his goal of confronting Darth Vader, Reva begins to make ground as her hatred for Skywalker leads her closer and closer. Just as she thinks she has found him and is ready to confront him before he sees Vader, a blast door shuts in front of her, locking her away from the elusive Skywalker. Now trapped in the tunnel and trying to escape her way out of this corridor, the trapdoor opens, sending Reva hurling to the bottom of Cloud City. In the meantime, Luke and Vader have their epic first battle as Reva finds herself in the junk collection area closer to the bottom of Cloud City. And as time passes, as she hits the bottom of this junk collection area, she begins to hear a clank and a clutter falling down the very same tube that she fell down. She then notices a shiny metallic object fall into the other pile of debris at the bottom of the tunnel. And as she reaches for the item that fell, she picks it up and realizes this is Luke's lightsaber. A flood of emotions and feelings begin to overcome Reva as she starts to feel the truth of the light side and what Force can do. Now more conflicted than ever, she decides to take the lightsaber and leave Cloud City for some soul searching. In another planetary system, after leaving Cloud City, Reva finds herself at a cantina or bar, where she meets a wide-eyed short alien who tells her, "You look like you could take a load off your soul." It's Maz Kanata. Feeling she can trust her, Reva begins to tell her the story of how she became to be at this place. Maz Kanata can feel the conflict but can also feel the good inside of Reva. He tells her, maybe you aren't ready for this saber isn't quite ready for you, but tells Reva that she is on an important journey that's worth exploring in her soul and in the Force. Maz Kanata understands the weight of carrying around this saber and what it can do with one's soul, and offers to hold on to it for her because there will be a time where it needs to bind her again. But tells Reva that every Jedi needs a lightsaber. Reva then looks at Maz Kanata and says, "But I'm no Jedi," where Maz Kanata says, "We'll let the Force decide that." Maz Kanata then reaches into a bag of tights and pulls out another saber and says, "Maybe this one is better fitting for you." And as Reva ignites it, it's a brilliant purple blade that comes out of the saber. And as Reva says, "But I don't understand," Maz Kanata tells her, "That is a story for another day." Distracted by a quick scuffle in the bar for just a moment, Reva goes to see what's going on, but when she looks back, Maz Kanata is gone just as quickly. During the events of Return of the Jedi, Reva then goes on a self-exploratory mission to find the truth about the Force in herself and how she feels about the whole galactic empire and which side of the Force she stands on. But in that time also manages to fall in love and have a small child with another person. And while trying to balance her life as a new mother, but also someone trying to discover more of the Force, news has come down that the second Death Star has been destroyed. Reva knows it's now a time where she'll have to leave her family for a while to discover the truths and the unknowns about the Force and find about the journey of her soul and herself. As the years pass and she gains more knowledge about the Force and herself, Reva decides it is time to finally head back home. But finally, when Reva arrives home, she finds out that not only is her new husband being killed, but her son has been taken away by a new threat to the galaxy known as the First Order. And as Reva begins her journey for her son, the events of the sequel trilogy play out pretty much as we've seen them on film. And by the end of Rise of Skywalker, Rey and Finn begin a new Jedi Order. Finn begins to see Rey struggle between the light side and the dark side and constantly questions her about where her alliance and fates align. But the Palpatine blood runs strong in Rey as she begins to fall closer and closer to the ultimate dark side. Although not as strong in the Force, Finn decides to take it upon himself to to confront Rey one more time for what would be an epic battle to end this dark side takeover. Sabers clash in its epic battle between the light and the dark side of the Force for supremacy. However, Finn is just not strong enough in the Force to take out Rey, and Rey has Finn dead for rights on the ground as he reaches out for what was once Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. Rey begins to walk towards Finn to deliver her final death blow. We see Finn reach out to Luke's lightsaber. It begins to jiggle a bit, it begins to move, and boosh! It begins to fly towards Finn. But just like in The Force Awakens, it does not land in Finn's hand. It flies right past him into the waiting hands of Reva. Reva then ignites Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, and in the other hand, the purple saber, where she then begins an epic battle with Rey, where ultimately she destroys Rey in the Palpatine bloodline. She then looks at Finn and puts out her hand and begins to help him up. A Force Ghost then appears, and who does it turn out to be? Mace Windu. He looks at Reva in the eye and says, "You did good, and I am proud of you." A tear begins to roll down Reva's face, when Mace Windu then says, "The Council has concurred. We have granted you the rank of Master." He then turns around and disappears into the darkness as mysteriously as he showed up. Reva knows this is her chance to start a whole new Jedi Order, but like any Master, she now needs an apprentice. She then turns to Finn, looks at him, and hands him the purple lightsaber, as Master Reva and Padawan Finn begin their new Jedi Order. So many more great stories to be told from this new starting point. Sometimes we could all learn the lesson that it's not the greatest thing to push for a virtue, that if we just held out a little longer, we could have had something even greater. Reva could have been the greatest Jedi story ever. From Papa Northfield, that's a very fair take on what could have been a great Reva story. But tell me what you think. Did you like this story? Did you not like this story? Where would you have taken the Reva story arc if you had the chance to write it yourself? And never forget to leave a like in the comment, because the more likes and comments you leave gives me more of a chance to make some great nerdy content for subscribers like you. As always, a big shout out to my best friend and super nerd, Patty Richardson, for liking, commenting, and sharing every single one of these videos. And if she can do that for every single one of these videos, perhaps you could share out this one yourself. And a big shout out and happy birthday to the Resonator, the man who makes all the music for this Nerd North station. Don't forget to check his links down below, including Bandcamp, where you can download all the great Nerd North theme songs and other great creations by the Resonator. Happy birthday, brother. We love ya. Make sure you send them your birthday wishes in the comments below. And a shout out to all the Nerd North subscribers. We're at 74 and have almost reached 100. Good on you, Nerd North. Without you guys, we could never make this channel happen. And at 100 subscribers, I'll be doing another Funko Pop giveaway, so don't forget to hit subscribe. Until next time, Nerd North!